Therapy and hypnosis. Now, one of our favorite, thank you to the person in locals that dropped this in front of me. Our favorite nut job, Yana Hawking, the plague of Australia, literally, more than likely by everybody she's slept with. I went and tried to do a search today because, there's just the main story, but I like to have a talking point to talk about when I'm discussing my stories. And I try to pull real data that shows we're right, they're wrong. And I found this article that just came out last month. Now, the way we would put it is women, 63% of leftist women, overwhelmingly, are in therapy. We'd say that's a bad thing. Like, you've got problems. If there's a moment in your life where you say, something, I should probably talk to somebody about my issues. I think I need help with my life. You're probably not in what we like to call the good place. But leave it up to Brigitte Jesse, I guess, Geese. Not sure how you pronounce Gecse. Leave it up to her to frame women going nuts is actually a good thing. I'm not going to read the whole article, but you'll get the idea. For decades, the narrative around mental health has been largely shaped by women. Why is that? Because women have the fifis. Women are the ones with the feelings, and women are the crazy ones. From therapists to coaches to self-help gurus and podcast hosts, women seem to dominate the landscape, while men are increasingly encouraged to prioritize their well-being. A noticeable disparity remains. Women are significantly more likely to seek out and engage with psychology, coaching, and other methods aimed at personal growth and understanding. Now, that's one way you could frame it. I'm just trying to gain some personal growth and understanding. And if you would ask them, well, what are you trying to understand? Well, I'm trying to understand myself, you see, because everything makes me angry. Trump's in office. Oh, TDS, stage 10. And they seem to be overwhelmingly the ones that are medicated and or drinking to medicate themselves. But, she says, why is this? Well, one common explanation is socialization. From a young age, girls are often encouraged to express their emotions, discuss relationships, and develop empathy. This fosters a culture where vulnerability and seeking help are perceived as strengths. Notice she didn't say they are strengths. It's perceived as a strength, not weaknesses. Boys, on the other hand, those awful boys, they're frequently taught to suppress their feelings. No, that's not true. Man up. Yes, that is true. And solve problems independently. Yes, that's usually how men do things. If it's an emotional issue and men are having problems with that, in the past, we used to use things like whiskey, cigars, petting our dog, punching our wives. We had other ways of dealing with it in the 50s. Now, I'm not saying all of them are good, but nowadays, part of masculinity is having stoicism. Nowhere in any of these articles do women or men or whoever writes these things ever mention stoicism, ever mention religion, ever mention a friendship or community, because that allows you to be away from the system, away from the indoctrination, and it allows you to have your own core group of like-minded individuals. They don't want you to have that. They want you to become part of the system. They say men solving problems independently can lead to a reluctance to acknowledge emotional struggles or seek external support. Now, the rest of this goes on down, and I'm not going to read it because you'll start vomiting into your own mouth. So what's next then? Well, what about trying hypnosis? Well, my favorite, maybe you're tired of hearing about her, but I love to enjoy the slip into madness and irrelevancy. I could have put this in the next story I'm going to be doing, which is Broken, Barren, and Forever Alone. We could put Yana in that. Yana, she says, I paid a hypnotist thousands of dollars to make me find nice guys attractive. And then a single text from a bad boy had me racing to his bed at 2 a.m. Well, obviously, the reason why she's racing to the bedroom of these men is because of the hypnotist that tried to make her like nice guys. Now, you might ask yourself, wait a minute, Joker, that doesn't really seem to make any sense. A hypnotist tried to make her like nice guys. And so because of that, she's only attracted to bad boy, and she now has the inability to love men. Yep, that's the stretch that she's doing to explain why she's 40 and forever alone. But even the hypnotism isn't working for these crazies. 10 years ago, I hit rock bottom. That would be when she's 30. So apparently 30 was rock bottom for Yana. How she's been, now if you read her story, she's been doing a lot worse than rock bottom. She said, I woke up with a sickening jolt of shame at the memory of crying at my ex-boyfriend's front door, begging him to come out and talk to me. We'd just broken up. Again. Our 4-year relationship had been one long soap opera, explosive arguments, passionate reconciliations, cheating, 2 stints in jail, him, not me, and several family-led interventions begging me to leave. Now, what I find interesting about this, she doesn't say who cheated. She just says cheating. She doesn't mention if it's her or him. I'm guessing him, but she should have said him cheating if that was the case. But he's ended up in jail. He's obviously a bad boy. Bad arguments, to the point where family's like, you need to get away from this guy. And she says, I loved him madly. Now, since she was with him for 4 years and the breakup was at the age of 30, that means from the tender age of 26, she was addicted to bad boys. She says, yes, he had anger issues. Yes, he loved pub brawls. Yes, he was insanely jealous. Well, was that because you cheated on him? I mean, you didn't say who cheated. But I was deep in my I can fix him era, and all that intensity, while occasionally terrifying, was also weirdly hot. You know, just take it from me, when women tell you who they are and what they like and what they love, believe them. Just believe them. They're telling you. They're telling you. That was the last man that she loved, by the way. She says, only that night was different. Our usual pattern was fight, sulk, then make up sex. But when I showed up to his house to repeat the routine, he didn't come to the door. Instead, I got muffled, F off through the glass. Okay, she got a muffled F off through the glass. And then his friend emerged to tell me point blank it was over. So here we've got a genuinely bad guy. He ends up in jail. He gets in pub brawls. There's cheating in the relationship, maybe both of them. And she loves him madly. Did she finally listen to her family's intervention and break it off? No, she did not. Finally, he had enough of the madness, and he broke it off with her. Why? Probably because he found a new piece of tail, or another one if he was cheating. And he said, you know something, I don't need her anymore. She's the big 3-0. I'm gonna get in touch with my inner Leonardo DiCaprio, and I'm gonna go for the local 24-year-old. And he dumped her. And that was it. And she was humiliated. She says I called my mother. She came over and slept next to me while I sobbed for hours. At the age of 30 years old, she needed mommy to lay next to her in bed. She was relieved it was over, but worried for me. The next morning, she handed me a book on limerence, an unhealthy, involuntary obsession with another person, and gently suggested I see a therapist. Well, shocking. I read the book, I went to therapy, but I still ached for him. So she did the therapy like all the other women do, and it did literally zero good. She still ached for him. I needed something more forceful. So when a friend mentioned a hypnotist that had just moved into her office building, I practically sprinted there. Surely, this woman could rewire my brain to stop going for the bad boys. Spoiler alert, this wasn't my first rodeo. Really? Shocking. Make me fall for the elusive nice guy. By which I mean a hot guy who happens to be sweet and kind, not the entitled nice guys who act like your friend, then sulk when you won't sleep with them as a reward. Okay, so she wants a hot guy who happens to be sweet and kind. Notice she doesn't say, I want a sweet and kind and funny man. Also, I need to find him attractive, or also he should be a little bit hot. No, the first priority to her is a hot guy who happens to be sweet and kind. Always listen to you, or always listen to them, because they're going to tell you who they are. All you have to do is read the words. She says she needed at least 4 sessions at $500 a pop. I was broke junior producer living off instant noodles, but I was desperate. I rated my savings and paid up front. So for $2,000, Yana, who had been through therapy, now goes to a hypnotist. Surprising, none of it works. Here's the catch-22 with therapists. If you went to a therapist and you spoke to them and you fixed all your issues, you're no longer seeing a therapist, and that therapist is no longer making money. Therapists don't like that. It's kind of like the homeless situation in California. If you fix homelessness in California, then all the people that are in charge of the homelessness, they're out of a job. Instead of making the $200,000 to $600,000 a year they're currently making. So they're not going to fix homelessness because they'd be out of a job. That's how therapists are. They don't want to fix you. They just want to keep you alive long enough to come to your next appointment. She said for the next month, she put me under once a week, digging through childhood memories, reframing thought patterns, and implementing healthy boundaries in my brain. But plot twist, those boundaries, she set them very high. So high, in fact, that it has now been 10 years since I've had a proper boyfriend. Back in the day, I might have overlooked a few red flags. Now, one tiny whiff of toxic behavior, and I'm out the door faster than you can say avoidant attachment style. So, Yana, since the age of, 20, has dated bad boys. The guys that use, toss her aside, moving on with their lives. She fell deeply in love with one of them, so bad it broke her brain. Therapy doesn't work, hypnotist doesn't work. And then she spends the next 10 years sleeping with anyone that is attractive, mildly popular, and or willing, because she said it herself, that she beds all these guys that are, oh, he's hot, or he was so attractive, or he's Mr. Big from New York. She beds all these men. And at the age of 40, after bedding God knows how many men, the excuse she has is, it's not my fault. The hypnotist that I went to when I was 30 reprogrammed my brain to be avoidant attachment, and that my standards are now so high, no man can reach my standards. Thus, I haven't fallen in love and haven't settled for a man in 10 years. It's not my fault, everybody. It's the therapist when I was 30. Well, color me surprised. I don't know what color that is. Color me shocked. Color me surprised. Maybe that's a light umber. It's not her fault she's sleeping with all the bad boys and not dating anybody. It's the therapist and the hypnotist from 10 years ago. Because he set her standards too high as she slowly slips into her 40s. To be fair, there have been plenty of flings and short-term relationships. Hormones, after all, don't get hypnotized. But when it comes to settling down, nope, I've become maddeningly picky. My mother calls it too picky. I call it finally having standards. So her standards are so high, no man is good enough for them. But how many times have we done these stories? At the age of 40, I finally upped my standards. Now, will upping the standard mean she won't sleep with the bad boys anymore? No, that's not what it means. Upping my standards means no men want long-term relationships with me. They just want to bang me and leave. So I'm going to flip the script so I can sleep at night, and I'm going to say it's actually me. I'm being picky. And so when these men don't want me, it's okay because actually I didn't want them first. That's the sour grapes of this. Now, Yana, for being 40 years old, is still doing fine, although I haven't seen does she have a picture without her in makeup in here? I don't know if she does. This is probably as close as you're going to get, which is still heavy foundation, waxed eyebrows, mascara, a natural tint lipstick. But you'll notice her smile lines are starting to get a little deep. You'll notice there's the jowl forming here. There's that strip of chicken neck that's starting to show just a little bit. She's got the crow's feet at the top of her cleavage. That's not good. For those of you that have dated older women, you know this is the beginning, the first sign of the cracks in the wall. The cracks in the wall start with cracks in the crow's feet, cracks in the smile lines that are permanent, which I now have too, although I have chubby cheeks. I'm getting fat. That's what that is. And the cracks starting at the top of the cleavage from this. And now she says this is her ex. And I want to ask you something. She's 40 years old, everybody. She's 40 years old. This is a screenshot that she has of the ex that she was dating at 26 to 30 years old. She just shared this in a story at the tender age she's written at 40 or 41. That means she's held on to these texts for 10 or 11 years. The story is not about the text. I mean, this is part of it, where he says, "Are you up at 2:01 a.m.? Did the hypnotist fix you yet? Nice guys are fun, LOL." At 2:15 a.m., making fun of her therapy. And at 2:19, he says, "Come over. I'll behave if you do," knowing they're going to get it on. And what's her response? In Uber. At his beck and call at 2:30 in the morning, she got out of bed, put on some clothes, and got in an Uber to go bang her ex-boyfriend. That is a big part of the story, but that's not the biggest part of the story. The biggest part of the story is Jana's 40, 41 years old, and for the last 10 or 11 years, she still has this text available. That means she's transferred these text messages from phone to phone to phone. This is iPhone, I believe, if I know what iPhone looks like. This is iPhone, so she's probably saved all the messages and then just done backups and restored to her next new phone. Or even worse, she's so crazy, she bought a new phone and kept the old phone for the old texts. Because I don't have messages from 6 months ago from the current person I'm dating or my friends. Like, who wants to store all that stuff? The fact that she's held on to us, this right here is why Jana hasn't found love. Despite all the hypnotists, despite all the men banging her in between, she's still in love with this guy. She never got over him. She got one-itis, and now she's an alpha widow. And that's what's going on. Jana is officially an alpha widow, and this is what we're looking at here. This story is not about the hypnotist. It's not about why she can't love nice guys or good guys. This is why she's never been in a relationship since. She's never fallen in love because she blew it. She expended it all on one guy who was the bad boy, who broke up with her, so she didn't get closure. And now she's broken, barren, and forever alone. But that's the upcoming story. She said, "No, sadly, the hypnotist didn't cure me of my attraction to bad boys. They still get me going. I just don't date them anymore. I sleep with them, sure, but I don't let them near my heart." Which is, that's smart. Case in point, 6 months after that devastating breakup, I got a text from Mr. Jail Time at 2 a.m. We read that text. She says, "Like a moth to a flame, I drove straight to his house for one last hurrah." Now, here's the thing. She said it's for one last hurrah. This is probably after they broke up. Or maybe this is right before they broke up. But either way, she went for it. While the hypnotist may not have stopped me from hopping in bed with my ex bad boy, she did at least stop me from committing to men like him, which is good. But she says there's a slight problem. She may have accidentally stopped me from dating. Full stop. So it's the hypnotist's fault, everybody. It's not my fault. I cannot take accountability for my actions. Who can I blame it on that I'm 40 and I still bang bad boys and I can't date good guys? I'm going to have to sleep on this one. Oh, wait, I know. I can blame it on the therapist from 10 years ago. That's whose fault it is. It's not mine. It's never me. She said, "Would I recommend hypnotherapy? Sure, if you're trying to quit sugar, smoking, or binge eating. But when it comes to love, I say leave it to the professionals with a psychology degree, not someone who has to put you under to rearrange your romantic preferences." There's no quick fixes to heartbreak. Yana, this heartbreak was from a decade ago. It's from a decade ago. She says, no magic wands, just hard lessons, a lot of unsexy self-work, which she's never done. And hopefully one day a nice guy who still manages to make me feel just the right kind of dangerous. There's nothing fixes this, guys. I find this funny. That women they'll lament, they'll cry, they'll be sad. You think she'd have it figured out 10 years after the guy that did it to her, but there's no accountability, so she's going to blame the therapist. Always someone else's fault, never mine. Never, never, never my fault. This is why hypnotism, therapy, screaming on the internet doesn't work. It's not going to work for any of these women. So what's it all boil down to? If hypnosis can't fix women, if therapy can't fix women, if the medications aren't fixing women, if the self-therapy and the wine and the cats, the crazy cat ladies and all the rest of it, if that's not fixing women, there's no hope for them. There's not. The only thing left is for them to become broken, barren, and alone forever.